Так, вітаю всіх, шановні колеги. Вже 6 година, тому я думаю, що ми можемо починати. Мене звуть Анастасія Дичук, я методистка мережі школ Green Country та TalkEn.Cloud, Академії TalkEn.Cloud. Я вітаю вас на другому вебінарі курсу Teach Online Like a Pro Level Up. Сьогодні ми продовжимо говорити про викладання онлайн, та я поділюся з вами корисними порадами. Але ніж ми почнемо, я хочу розповісти вам про TalkEn.Cloud та обговорити деякі організаційні питання. Тому давайте розпочинати. Отже, що таке TalkEn.Cloud? Це не просто платформа, це бібліотека інтерактивних підручників, система менеджменту навчального процесу. Ми, до речі, про це будемо трохи пізніше розмовляти, коли я буду вже презентувати тему вебінару. Також TalkEn.Cloud має особистий центр навчання викладачів та бізнес-консалтингу. Тому я пропоную подивитися та розглянути складові TalkEn.Cloud більш детально. Отже, ми розпочнемо з інтерактивних підручників. Бібліотека TalkEn.Cloud нараховує приблизно 50 інтерактивних цифрових підручників, починаючи з рівня Pre-A1, закінчуючи рівнем Advanced C1. Підручники розподілені по рівням для школярів, тобто для початкової, середньої та старшої школи, а також для дорослих. Тому, відповідно, і наповнення залежить від вікової категорії учня. Також в бібліотеці ви зможете знайти Teacher's Guide. Це деталізовані плани для кожного підручника. Тобто це план занять з інструкціями та порадами, може додатковими посиланнями, які вам знадобляться під час викладання за цим підручником. Також чим корисна ця бібліотека, бо коли ви відкриваєте підручник, то ви або ваші учні зможуть відстежити прогрес у виконанні завдань. Тобто буде написано, скільки відсотків завдань було виконано, наприклад. Також бібліотека інтерактивних підручників включає в себе систему тестів з автоматизованою перевіркою до кожного підручника, а також плейсмент-тест, який діти виконують зазвичай перед початком навчання, для того, щоб викладачі змогли визначити рівень. Також, окрім інтерактивних підручників, на платформі ви зможете знайти різні інтерактивні воркшити за різними темами. Це можуть бути якісь тематичні воркшити, наприклад, присвячені Євробаченню, або присвячені різним святам, Дню Святого Валентина, Святого Патрика тощо, або різним граматичним або лексичним темам. А також, окрім цього, ви можете власноруч створювати інтерактивні воркшити, якщо ви маєте підписку на TalkEn.Cloud. Тому я пропоную розглянути детальніше, що саме, окрім бібліотеки, пропонує TalkEn.Cloud. І як ми можемо використовувати цю систему менеджменту навчального процесу. Перш за все, ця система LMS надає можливість викладачам створювати профілі учнів, об'єднувати їх у групи або призначати індивідуальні заняття, генерувати розклад, моніторити результати учнів в електронному журналі, а також прикріплювати тести для визначення рівня або тести після завершення певного юніт, наприклад. Також ви можете додавати домашні завдання та повідомлення для учнів, якщо вам треба щось їм надіслати або повідомити. І також ця система є дуже корисною для тих, хто викладає онлайн, бо замість купи PDF-файлів все вже є на платформі, всі підручники адаптовані під онлайн-формат в інтерактивному вигляді. Ви просто відкрили платформу, і учні вже можуть виконувати завдання. Отже, якщо ви зацікавлені, якщо ви викладаєте онлайн та дуже довго шукали якусь корисну платформу, я раджу вам спробувати TalkEn.Cloud. І тепер перейдемо до організаційних моментів, і я впевнена, що є певне питання, яке вас дуже хвилює, це питання стосовно сертифікату. Отже, після завершення цього вебінару, як і всіх інших майбутніх, які будуть, учасники можуть отримати сертифікат, але він є платним. Вартість одного сертифікату 100 гривень. Щоб придбати сертифікат, вам потрібно зайти на пошту. Після реєстрації на вебінар вам мав би надійти лист з реквізитами для оплати. Вам треба використати ці реквізити, сплатити, оплатити сертифікат та надіслати квитанцію про оплату на ту адресу, за якою ви отримали цей лист. Другою умовою того, щоб ви отримали сертифікат, це є успішне складання тесту. Тест з'явиться протягом 24 годин після завершення вебінару. Він буде вам надісланий на пошту. Щоб отримати сертифікат, ви маєте отримати 80% правильних відповідей. Але є один плюс, що кількість спроб не обмежена, тому ви можете виконати тест декілька разів, а також спочатку я раджу там ознайомитися з статтею, яка буде вам надіслана після вебінару, а потім вже виконувати тест. Отже, я сподіваюся, що питань стосовно тесту вже у вас не буде виникати, тому ми можемо розпочинати наш другий вебінар. And the topic of today's webinar is maximizing online learning and strategies for efficient and productive lessons. It means that today we will continue talking about teaching online, and at the beginning of our webinar, I will share some statistics regarding learning online and what students think about learning online. Then we will move on to talking about challenges. I guess that's not new because you have already discussed some challenges, but we will revise them one more time just to understand what happens and what difficulties we face, and then we will talk about strategies. I will suggest some tips and strategies on how to maximize online learning and how to make your lessons more productive. So let's get started. And as I promised, I'm going to share some statistics with you, and I would like you to respond in chat. So on my screen, you can see some facts, and I would like you to brainstorm and guess what is the percentage of students that say that online learning is better than traditional classroom learning, and what is the percentage of students that are fully learning online in Ukraine. So write your ideas in chat, and we will check with the answers on my screen, which you will see in a few seconds. Okay, so approximately 60% of students prefer online learning to traditional classroom learning because it offers more opportunities and it provides more possibilities. And approximately 33% of students in Ukraine are fully learning online due to various reasons. And I would like to share the results of one more survey, which was conducted in the US. But I guess that if it was conducted in Ukraine, the results would be similar. So let's take a look at these charts. So the survey was conducted among students, and they were asked to tell what they like about online classes and what they like about offline classes. So sort of advantages of online and offline classes. And as for online classes, I can say that students prefer like online classes because they can, it is more comfortable to study from home. They can study from home or from any place. So online classes provide students with flexibility. You can be flexible, and online learning allows students to learn in their own pace. They can take some time to study, they can search something on the internet, confirm, check, and they have more time if they study online. Whilst offline classes offer more interaction, students get a chance to communicate with their peers and teachers face to face, and offline classes offer better classroom environment compared to online classes because there are fewer distractions if you study in a physical classroom. And it brings us to the next to the challenges that educators and learners face in online settings. So let's take a look at these challenges. So if you look at this picture, I guess it will be obvious. So the first challenge that we as teachers face, and our students as well, is building a sense of community. So it is way easier, I would say, to foster relationship when you work in when you work offline in a physical classroom, because you can see students' reactions, you can understand what they feel. Sometimes you can even anticipate their actions, predict their actions, and perhaps you can come up with the solutions to the problems. When it comes to online classes, it might be difficult because it's really hard to understand what our students feel and what kind of mood they're in today, especially if they work without their cameras, especially if they're reserved and shy. So it's really hard to build rapport and to establish mutual understanding with students. So it becomes sort of a problem in online settings. The other problem that we face is tracking students' performance. And you might wonder how it is possible if we have a lot of online games that help us track their progress. But I'm not talking the progress, like the results. I'm talking about the action, the process of doing the task. So when you sit in a physical classroom with your students, you can see them doing the task. You can see them writing. You can come to them, correct them. You can monitor them, and if necessary, provide some prompts, provide some assistance. When it comes to online classes, we can't be sure that our students are writing if we give them a task to write. We can't be sure that our students are reading. Well, we do our best to inspire them to do the task, but there is no like 100 possibility that our students are doing that. And of course, we can't be sure that our students are not using Google or any other source to find the answers. They're not using the keys to complete the task. So in the third challenge that we face, I guess you have already realized what it is. So it is providing feedback, and it is closely related to the other two problems that I have already discussed. Because if we cannot see what our students are doing, we cannot provide immediate feedback, we cannot react to the problem and come up with a solution. There might be a delay in the communication, and it becomes a challenge for us to provide feedback on time. So what we can do to overcome these challenges? What kind of solutions can we come up with? So let's take a look. First of all, we as teachers need to understand that education doesn't just take place in stuffy classrooms. It can happen everywhere, every day, and to every person. So there are certain actions that we need to anticipate and to consider in order to make our classes more effective. So let's take a look at what we can do before the lesson, during, and after the lesson to ensure effective learning process. So before the lesson, you need to prepare. That's the most important thing, actually, yeah? So you need to prepare everything. Look through the materials, lesson plans if you have one, the course book, the tasks, the links. So check if everything is working properly, and anticipate possible problems. The problems that may arise at the lesson. It may be something connected with the task itself. So the task might be too difficult, or the topic might be confusing, and your students might have difficulties understanding the topic. So you need to come up with some CCQs or ICQs, or your students might want to play some online games, so you need to include these games into your lesson, or you also need to anticipate the problems with the interaction in case somebody refuses to work with another student. So you need to come up with some alternative ways to regroup your students. So after you have anticipated the problems, you need to invent the solutions. And it's better to come up with more than one solution to each problem. And of course, one more thing that you can do is collect the necessary information. And what I mean is that you need to, well, let's say that you'll have a lesson about, I don't know, food. So before the lesson, you can have you can conduct a survey, or you can create a poll and have your students answer what food they prefer or what diet they prefer. For example, whether they're meat eaters, sorry, or they're vegetarians. So collect the information that might be useful for you during the lesson, and it will help you to build the lesson in a right way. So you can use different forms and websites that allow you to collect this information. And the example that is shown here is Poll Everywhere. It allows you to create different polls and surveys, and you can send the link to your students and have them answer the questions about themselves, or choose the correct option, or leave some ideas, share the ideas. So it can be a part of homework, but at the same time, it's like pre-lesson task preparation for the lesson. Then, when it's time for the lesson, let's look at the actions that we can do. First of all, you need to check connection, your microphone and camera, and also check your students' microphone and camera. Make sure that you can hear the students and the students can hear you, that everything is working perfect. Then it's time to set the goals and expectations. So clarify the goals of the lesson, the aims of the lesson, and what you expect your students to learn or to do by the end of the lesson, so that they know what they need to aim, what they need to strive for. It's also important to encourage our students throughout the whole lesson, motivate them, and provide some rewards for their active participation. And of course, it's important to monitor if you want to provide feedback and as a result, provide feedback. When it comes to the actions that we need to take after the lesson, you might, wait a second, I forgot to mention one of the websites that you can use during your lesson. It can be used to give rewards, to motivate students, and even to set some goals. It's called Class Dojo, and you've already heard about it. So it's just a reminder for you that you can use this website during your lessons. So let's talk about the actions that we can take after the lesson. What happens after the lesson and what we need to consider. So one of the good things, one of the perfect things to do is to encourage our students to self-analyze, to analyze themselves and to reflect on their progress, on their achievements. And of course, it's important to consolidate knowledge and revise everything that they have studied. To do that, you can create some games on such well-known websites as Quizlet, Kahoot. Here you can see another online game. It's called Booklet. You can create games for revision and send the links for and assign homework and have your students complete these games, complete these quizzes in their own pace as a part of their homework. Okay, and as I said, we're going to talk about different strategies. So these were just some actions, some tips, actions that we can take to improve our lessons. Now we are going to talk about some specific strategies, and we will start with monitoring. So monitoring is a classroom management technique which is defined as listening to the learners for their accuracy and fluency, or checking whether the activities are going according to the plan and that the learners are on task. So monitoring is considered to be one of the most important techniques in classroom management, and it is necessary for a teacher to master this technique if you want to achieve, if you want your students to achieve better outcomes. So let's look and find out why we need to monitor our students. So firstly, we need to monitor students to ensure that they are on the task, that they are doing exactly the task that you told them to do, that they understand what they need to do, that they are following your instructions. It is monitoring also allows us to check that our students are using the language that they are learning right now. Yeah, so for example, the topic of the lesson is past simple. How will you check if your students are using the language if you don't monitor them? That's why it's important to monitor them during the activities in order to understand that they are actually practicing past simple, for example. And of course, when we monitor, we can find out the mistakes, identify the mistakes that our students make in the target language, and later we can provide some error correction. So we can also, with the help of monitoring, we can also micro-teach and add some input, provide some prompts, assist them if necessary. We can also assess the development of their fluency, how they work on the task. Monitoring also helps teachers to maintain the discipline, and it helps teachers to establish the routines. And of course, it helps to improve timing, and if necessary, teachers can adjust the pace. If you understand the task is going too slowly or too fast, so you can adjust the pace at some time, or stop the timer and start checking the task, or provide some prompts and so on. Or while monitoring, you have realized that the task is too difficult for students and they're not doing it correctly, and there is no, like, it's useless, yeah. So they won't be able to provide the necessary output. So you can, while monitoring, you can change the task, because you have monitored, you have realized that the task is not helpful, so you have decided to change it. And there are several types of monitoring. So let's look at them. So we have discrete monitoring, vanishing, active monitoring, and participation. And let's look what each of these types means. So when it comes to vanishing, it means that teacher goes out, for example, out of the classroom, takes some coffee, or if it's online class, the teacher stays in the main session and students are working in the breakout rooms, so the teacher disappears. When it comes to discrete monitoring, teacher jumps from one breakout room to another breakout room, listens to one pair to another pair, and checks what students are doing. We also have active monitoring, which means that teacher tries to listen very attentively to as many students as possible. Not only the teacher listens, but also takes part in the task, like corrects the mistakes, helps, offers some ideas if necessary. And the fourth type of monitoring is called participation, and it's clear from the name what it means. So the teacher participates, joins the task, and works with a group or with a particular student in that task. So there are several ways how we can monitor students online, and one of the ways is using LMS. So here on the screen you can see an example of TalkEn.Cloud, the LMS that I have told you before. So what we can do, the features that this LMS offers, such as quizzes, different assignments, and discussion boards, allow teachers to assess students' understanding and participation. For example, with the help of quizzes, you can monitor whether your students have completed the task. You can see their progress, you can see the result. When it comes to writing assignments, sometimes it becomes a challenge for teachers to monitor writing, because we don't know if our students are actually writing. So if you use LMS, the students will have to add their writing tasks, the stories, the sentences to the online book. So they'll have some place where to write. They need to write in that board, in that table, and then you will be able to see it. So you'll have access to their writing tasks, and you will be able to monitor and check them later. Another way to monitor students, especially if the aim is to monitor speaking, listening, is with the help of Zoom features. If you are using Zoom, for example, one of the perfect ways to monitor students speaking is to put them in the breakout rooms, have them speak in pairs, discuss something, and while the students discussing, you are listening, taking notes of their mistakes, and after that, it will be necessary to provide feedback. If you want to monitor students writing in Zoom settings, you can use Zoom chat and have your students write the sentences to you in chat, or you can create a whiteboard and have your students write the sentences on this whiteboard. Another way to monitor students' writing is with the help of Google Docs. So you can create a folder and then create the docs for every student, add the tasks there, and have them write in this document. And it allows you to see what students are writing in real time, and it gives you opportunity to leave some comments, add some comments and recommendations as shown on my screen. So that was one of the stories, one of the essays, I guess. Oh, it was a letter. This task was to write a cover letter, and when the students started writing, I joined the document and I realized that the student wasn't following the structure, so I left a note for student to correct, to take a look and check the structure of the cover letter. And of course, we can monitor with the help of online games. You can easily play these games with your students in open class and ask some follow-up questions when you play them in open class. It's like teacher-led game. You can see their answers, you can see their progress on the leaderboard, or you can put them in the breakout rooms and let them play the game together and brainstorm the answers together. But keep in mind that not all of the games have this student mode when students can work in the breakout rooms. For example, such games as Jeopardy and Booklet are only teacher-led. So you can do it open class, whilst Quizlet and Word Wall and Bamboozle can be done in the breakout rooms in pairs. Yeah. And I guess you have a question when we need to monitor. To be honest, monitoring never stops. So it happens all the time, but particularly during the speaking activities, because we want to monitor our students' fluency and how they use the target language. And the next technique that I would like to draw your attention to is feedback. So in fact, feedback is the stage of the lesson when students are able to respond to some information, find out how successfully they completed a particular task, or have answers checked and clarified. So with the help of feedback, teachers are able to provide personalized guidance, foster continuous improvement, and increase students' motivation and engagement. There are different types of feedback. We have feedback on content, where the focus is on fluency and how fluently our students can speak. We also have feedback on language, and feedback means that we provide error correction. The focus here is on accuracy, whether our students have used the target language correctly in the sentences. We have immediate feedback, the one that we provide right after the task, and delayed feedback, the one that we provide when some time has passed. Well, there is also peer feedback among the students. and teacher feedback, the one that students receive from the teacher. When it comes to providing feedback online, there are also several ways. So firstly, let's discuss how we can get feedback from students, not give them feedback, but get feedback. So it's usually like feedback on content to get to know their opinion, the results of their discussion. So we can use the following websites, the following resources, such as Answer Garden, Mentimeter, and Padlet. So you can create like discussion boards, or you can create word clouds, or question answer games or polls and so on. Send the link to your students and have them share the results of their discussion or express their opinion regarding the task they just completed. It can be done at the beginning of the lesson, at the end, or at the end of the lesson, or after every task. If you want to provide feedback on content or language, you can use different digital boards, such as Jamboard, Mirrorboard, or it can be a Zoom board. You can use Wheel of Names, and there is another website called Formative. It allows you to create different sets of activities, or again, create some polls and questionnaires. So what we can do, if we want to provide feedback on content, we need to create flashcards or sentences with examples of good and bad language use. It's very important to add not only sentences with mistakes, but also correct sentences for students to understand that they have achieved something, that they have made some correct sentences. After that, have your students identify which sentences contain mistakes and encourage them to correct them. You can tell them to do it in pairs, send the link and have them correct the mistakes in pairs, or you can analyze the mistakes and provide feedback open class with the whole class. But make sure that everyone is involved. When it comes to providing feedback on content, of course, it's about the task itself, not about the language that they've used, but their opinion. Again, you can add some questions that are connected with the task and have them answer these questions. As for peer feedback, on my screen, you can see a website called Peer Grade, which offers opportunities for peer feedback. So let's see how it happens. Well, it works with writing assignments. The teacher firstly needs to create the assignment. Then you send the link to your students and you ask the students to upload all their assignments to this folder or just write down. The students upload their work. After that, the system automatically distributes the papers among all the participants, and the students get another student's paper to check. So they check it and they give anonymous feedback. After that, after they received somebody's feedback, they give feedback on feedback. So they respond to that feedback. And then the teacher gets an overview. The teacher gets a chance to check how the peers evaluated each other, and then the teacher provides some evaluation. So you can see, you can ask such questions for feedback as mention something that the classmates did well, something that your classmates could improve at, and so on. When you receive the article, you'll get a link to the video, and in that video, you'll have you will see how it works. You'll get better understanding of how it works. Okay, so apart from feedback, we can also provide feed forward. So let's take a look at what feed forward is. It is actually a reverse feedback. It is the process of replacing positive or negative feedback with future-oriented solutions. So it means that we focus on the future instead of the past, and we provide our students with some uh, help, with some assistance before they begin the task, with some recommendations and instructions on how to complete this task. To So the benefits of feed forward are the following. Uh, when we feed forward, it increases students' performance because they already know what we expect from them. They know in which direction to move, and actually sometimes they might even know how to complete this task. It ensures better outcomes. It builds students' confidence and motivation because we have provided some assistance and we have provided them with some solutions, and it addresses the mistakes before actually making them. So we anticipate some mistakes our students can make, we analyze them before the task, and it encourages our learners to plan in advance. What I mean is that they plan their actions, the task, in advance. So let's see how it looks and what we can do to feed forward. So here is an example. The students, let's imagine that the students are writing an essay. And an example of feedback would be if we wait until our students have finished writing, then we collect the papers, we mark up all the errors, we give a grade, and we analyze the mistakes. That is feedback because it comes after the task. And it focuses on the past because we analyze what has already happened. Whilst feedforward focuses on the future. And an example of feedforward would be if teacher reads parts of the essays while the students are writing. So let's get back to that task when to the slide when I showed you that my student was writing a letter, but she didn't follow the structure. So when I figured it out, I left the note and later she changed it. I just didn't add this to the slide. So we read the parts of the essays while the students are writing it. So we are monitoring, we are reading, and at the same time, we can point out the things that we have noticed, the things that like wrong, or maybe that's the things that our students need to consider and improve. And we ask students questions to get them thinking about how they might improve these moments. So we provide some assistance, provide some prompts. Perhaps your students have forgotten about something and it's time for them, for you to remind them. So how can we feed forward? Let's look at some tips. So it's important to be clear and specific about what you expect from the students. So it's important to set some goals and expectations. And of course, it's important to provide clear instructions. Excuse me. Uh, it's important to provide examples and ask questions to check their understanding. So don't forget about ICQs if you want your students to complete the task successfully. You might as well give some guidance on how to approach a task. So give some recommendations, provide some prompts, can be guidelines, mind map, checklist. You can even come up with the mind maps together. So before your students start writing, you can brainstorm some ideas or some words that they need to use. Or if your students need to create a dialogue, you can give them a guideline with the steps, yeah, for student A and student B, and you can come up with the checklist like of things that they need to include in their writing or in their speaking, what they need to speak about. And it's also important not to give too much information, because if you tell them everything, there won't be any place for creativity. So allow the students to use creativity and critical thinking, but at the same time, prompt them and provide some guidance. And the next technique and strategy that I would like to talk with you is reflection, or reflective thinking in other words. So reflective thinking is a part of the thinking process that focuses on analyzing and drawing conclusions regarding past actions. So we analyze everything that we look back, and we analyze our performance, our achievements. So it refers to encouraging students to always reflect upon the information they have and what they still need to obtain. And reflective thinking helps students to find ways to reduce that gap throughout the learning process. So if we encourage our learners to analyze their actions, to analyze what they have learned, whether they are moving in the right direction, whether they have achieved uh, the aim of the lesson, perhaps they have some personal aims, whether they have achieved their own aims, and what they have learned, what they liked, what they disliked about the lesson. It will help them to improve their learning outcomes, and it will actually help them encourage them to enjoy the learning process. So let's take a look at different reflective activities that we can use in online classes. So the first one is called 1-minute reflection, and or in other words, 1-minute paper. So it's a very short in-class writing activity that usually takes 1 minute or even less. And it includes some responses to the questions asked by a teacher. And these questions prompt students to reflect on the lesson and provide the teacher, the educator, with useful feedback. So on my slide, you can see the questions that you can possibly ask a student. So this is just some examples. You can come up with some other questions, yeah? But just make sure that these questions prompt your students to reflect, to think, and to analyze and express their own opinion. So you can ask them to to write about the most interesting thing that they've learned today. Or you can ask them whether they have any questions about the topic, or something that was surprising or interesting in today's discussion. So you can again create some questionnaires or create a Padlet board and have your students add their answers there. They can write to you in Zoom chat or any other chat. Perhaps you have a group with your students and they can write their responses there or directly to you. It depends on you. The aim is to have them is to have them express themselves, reflect on the lesson and on their performance. The next activity is called Think, Pair, Share. Well, I'm sure you've heard about this activity. It helps students process new information and build their confidence before speaking in front of the entire group. So, if you want your students to express their opinion, you can firstly have them think and brainstorm some answers individually. Then you put them in pairs and have them discuss something in pairs. And then these pairs share the results of their discussion in front of others in open class. And later you analyze, you discuss, you agree, disagree, reward your students, praise them, and so on. And the third activity is called exit questions and or checklists. So let's look. So by exit questions, I mean just the questions that we usually ask at the end of the lesson. And these questions are aimed at making our students reflect, encouraging them to look back and analyze their actions. So you can see the questions in that picture and how you can organize this activity, how you can conduct it. You can create either Google form or again Padlet. Send the link to this form and ask students to describe what they liked or disliked about the lesson, or explain how they feel about their performance in class. So you can include these questions. What was easy during the lesson? What was hard? What did you learn? How will you use it in the future? So how are you doing and what are you working on? And another activity is called checklists. So these are just checklists with some achievements, and we can do it at the beginning and at the end of the unit, for example. Let's see how it works. At the beginning of the unit, you give students a quiz or a checklist to check what they know, just to test them, whether they can talk about different sports, use present perfect, just to check whether they have any prior knowledge. Then you have you forget about this checklist for some time, you learn the topic, you practice it, and when it's the end of the unit, you go back to this checklist again, and you ask students to tick what they have achieved, what they can do now, to check what they have learned, to reflect on their achievements and their performance and compare. And I would like to suggest some other tips. What else we can do to improve our lessons? So, and to make to maximize online learning. So, at the beginning of the course, it's important to create a needs analysis in order to find out your students' preferences and interests and their learning goals. Also, remember to share your screen and use different visuals, because learners understand the information better when they can see it. Try to use different interaction patterns throughout the lesson, vary between pair work and individual work, use mingling activities, some debates, some open class discussions, and so on. Make your lessons more personalized and adapt the activities and tasks to your students' interests, abilities, and their personal goals. learning goals, I mean. Try to use online resources, the ones that I have shared with you and the ones that you know. Try to encourage collaboration and cooperation during the lesson. Teach your students how to respect each other, teach them how to listen to each other, how to help each other, and of course, provide clear instructions for new online games or apps. So let's say you want to use peer grade, but if you just give your students a task to and you send them the link to this game without instructing your students on how to use this game, it will be stressful for your students. Not only the task itself is challenging, but the new app, new game is also difficult. So if you want to avoid such situations when your students can cope with the task because they don't understand what they need to do on this platform or how they can play this game, it's better to demonstrate. So you can share your screen, you can provide some pictures of how to play this game, provide clear explanations, and don't be afraid to ask some ICQs to check whether your students have understood the task or not. And of course, try to be confident, try to be friendly, and don't forget that you work with people, so try to understand what's going on in their lives and consider it while conducting a lesson. So that is actually that's all what I wanted to share with you today. And I just want to remind you that if you want to get the certificate, you have to pay for it and you have to complete the test that will be available within 44 hours after the end of this webinar, and you need to get more than 80% of correct answers, and then you will receive the certificate. So thank you for joining this webinar, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks, I guess. So that's it. Have a nice evening.